Good to see you, Professor Gerald Treese.
Always good to see you. You guys are real warriors. I'm proud of you.
Well, did you fare well during the storm?
Yeah, I just drove in from the Woodlands. You guys have been here the whole time.
Yeah, it's been quite an adventure, and you know, a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff, whether they were at work or our station, and yeah, it's been quite the journey for everyone involved in Harvey.
We're going to ask you some questions that might have a legal bent to them.
Sure.
You know, and we also want to remind people to call 833-243-5789. That's our Hurricane Harvey Help Desk for all the questions that you have about storm relief. I've got a question for you. What if your rent is due today? For most people, rent is due today. It's the 1st, and they've been so busy, they don't have access to anything right now. Maybe they're at a shelter, and the rent is due.
Ron, you and I are old enough. We remember this isn't our first big storm and flood. Same question before. The bad news is that just because your rent is due and you physically don't have a place, Texas law says you got to pay it. That's what the law says. On the other hand, I have seen year in and year out, the landlord has an interest in giving you some time to get that paid. And also in Texas, Texas is one of those strange states. Now, you could have a lease that gives you weather protection, but most folks are on a month-to-month rental agreement. What's the legal advice? If I were their lawyer, I'd tell them to try to negotiate with that landlord. Why? Because it's in the landlord's interest, you know, to do something for you. Here's my theory also. Texas law requires an implied warranty of livability, that if you're my landlord and I'm the tenant, you've got to give me a livable structure. And so you have something to bargain with. I don't have a structure at all, you know, or I can't pay the rent. I'll pay the rent and it's livable. So I worry about these folks that are contacting me. The structure doesn't exist. And do they have to pay? Technically, yes. But the Texas law says the landlord also has a duty to provide a livable premises.
But they may not even get their deposit back.
That's right.
It depends on what's in that lease.
Ron, I'm going to tell you what, when I was a college student, I signed so many leases, I don't even know what language they were written in. But you've got to really watch it now. Because I used to think as a young man there were good guys and bad guys. There's just people and there's business people. And you've got to protect your interests. Now, it might be too late on this one. My experience from the storms of 9, 10 years ago, landlords want to work with you because they need the money coming in sooner or later. The ones they don't want to work with you so much on is if there's no premises there. And that's why I cooked up this theory about the implied warranty of habitability as a way to push back. Most landlords are management companies that are also paying notes to some creditor. So that money is like a lifeline that comes in. I don't think a month or two the delay or a weekend delay is a big deal. I do think if the premises aren't there and you're required to pay it, that's going to be a bigger problem.
Let's talk about work. People have been displaced, or you know, they've had to move out of their homes. A lot of people can't get back to work in time. Can a person's boss fire them for
I'm
not
the
showing
bad
up?
news guy, Reka. I'm the bad news guy today.
I've said that for
now,
a long
if you
time.
guys have a contract, you probably can't be.
Okay.
And the reason is because you have personal days.
Yes.
Under a contract. Most employees who have a written contract get sick days and personal days. But I'm just talking about Joe laborer.
Yeah.
And that's the bad news. The good news, we're not riding, you know, a clean cloth here. We've done this many years, all the 30-some-odd years we've been doing this. The answer is the boss also has an interest to get you back to work. And so unless they were going to get rid of you anyway, but the problem is legally.
Yeah, legally,
That
can they fire you?
if I get fired and I don't have a contract, there's no legal thing I can point to say, look, you done me a wrong because you didn't in Texas.
Wow, that's hard.
So what does that mean? And what it means, right, is you got to work with the boss. You got to, you know, don't go in throwing cards on the table saying you have a legal obligation to let me off. This is the mellow time in Houston. I haven't seen it this way. Actually, Alicia and Allison and back in Carla in 61, Houston was the same way. Everybody's trying to help each other. I think they will for a while, but not forever.
Yeah, you can't use it as an
That's
excuse.
why I'm here.
Yeah,
well, speaking of bosses, what if your business where you worked has been wiped out? What if it's got damage?
You can't go to work.
And they won't rebuild, or they can't rebuild. Maybe they didn't have insurance.
Then you better contact unemployment
Well, I mean, they may
compensation.
owe you money, and maybe they don't have it now.
But Ron, the legal system isn't going to adjust to every problem. The fact is that if they owe you money, You might be able to get it out of a receivership or a bankruptcy or a wind down. But the fact of the matter is, if the company doesn't exist and you don't have a job, Texas at least gives you unemployment compensation. That's something you can sign up for and get until another job comes along. That's the first question you've answered where Texas actually gives you an affirmative thing you can do.
Yes, so you get a little positive. You get a little
That's
positive.
right.
Okay, I have questions about homes now, and I hope you can answer them. A lot of people's homes this time around flooded, and they would have never really expected them to flood, you know, like because of just the torrential rain. This was unprecedented. So if your home flooded and you're trying to sell it, do you have to disclose that?
Yes. Yeah. I was trying to be a little bit squishy on some of the other answers to give people some hope. There is no anything but a black and white answer here. If your house flooded, you're going to have to lie, because you have to make a statement that it's never flooded. And you know, Ray, I have talked to people all over the world this week. This is not a local or Texas or national, it's an international story.
It is.
They're going to call this the Great Houston Flood or whatever they want to call it, the Harvey Flood or whatever. It's going to be hard, I think, to sell a house without you saying, how did your house do, right, during the storm?
Yeah.
And you see, the one thing I always tell everybody, never ever misrepresent things. If you misrepresent anything, it will come back to get you.
Yeah, you set yourself up for legal trouble.
I had a friend that had a house pending. A sale was pending. And it's not pending anymore. You know, that flood sort of just changed everything.
Let's talk about scams now. In Texas, I don't believe contractors have to be licensed. Is that
You
correct?
are correct. Can you believe that?
Yes, for once I'm correct. So you have to really be doing your homework on who you hire.
I'm going to tell you what, Ron, this is also nothing new to us. You know, if you have people, let's say Rika's got all kinds of trouble at her house, and fortunately she doesn't, but all kind of problems, and here comes Billy Bob knocking on the door saying, I'm going to fix that house up for X dollars. Have the red lights flashing, not just the police, but have the red lights flashing. Listen, guys, if the person knocking on that door, remember, he is not licensed by the state of Texas, so how can you protect yourself? Every which way. First of all, be certain to get references, be certain to get either a bond that he posts or insurance, the legitimate insurance. But I'm telling you, I'm as bad as anybody. I want to rush and fix something.
Yes, people are desperate to get back in their homes.
Work has already started.
And work has already started for a lot of
Put it
people.
in the
People
slow
started
gear.
rebuilding like 2 days ago.
No, I saw some coming in. You know, the fact of the matter is, I can't imagine a bigger scam than that. But there's charity scams too.
There are.
You know, people saying, you know, we're raising money for this. I'm certainly not talking about the Red Cross or
No,
J.J.
but you
Watt.
need to do your homework with them too.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Then you can contact the BBB.
We're all such good humans as a rule right now, and that we want to do good, we want to help our fellow man, and I'm the same way. But at the same time, the people who are these bottom feeders, I call them, people that come in and feed off of the misery that people have, and just a big, big warning, no matter what you do with a contractor, do not pay them cash. It's that simple. Give them either a credit card, which they probably won't take, or a check or a part payment after you check them out. Now, if they're legitimate, that's the way legitimate operators work. And if they're not, wish them well.
Because the credit card can protect you.
You betcha. You
They
understand?
can stop payment or whatever.
Yeah, you see, with a credit card, it sounds goofy, but you can find out you've been scammed or something, and you can cancel it. And that's one of the reasons you pay a fee to the credit card companies.
Yeah,
It's
for
good
that
advice. You ought to be
protection.
doing this interview. You know as much as I do,
I
right?
think we have time for maybe one more question.
Yeah. What you said that people have been contacting you from around the world. What's the most common question you've been asked?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, is because the pictures on CNN and all the international news channels is devastation. What they have is Buffalo Bayou. I had a friend that lives on Buffalo Speedway, and I thought he was on Buffalo Bayou. He goes, Coach, that's pretty far away.
Yeah.
So it's not just other people's mistakes.
Exactly.
You have to understand, people in California who see this think that we're all underwater right now in this. Maybe we are, but I'm just saying that this is not a storm that anyone's going to easily forget. And going back to your question, you sell property, you're going to have to answer a question: how did your storm come through that property? Come through that storm?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Professor Gerald Treese, thank you so much. Great information for us.
Good to see you.
If you still